Nutrimedical Report and Clay and Iron Show. By the way, both websites are very active. We now are starting to load up information on clayandiron.com, CLAYANDIRON.com. We actually are trying to track down Jonathan Gray, who has an amazing series of books over at beforeus.com, and we have the hyperlink up on our associates page. And we're starting to put up much more information over on our direct, on our live stream channel, which is a Nutrimedical channel. This information, by the way, is all free. If you're a customer, you get access. If you've been a customer in the last 6 months, you have access to our live stream channel, all the wellness conditions, which I have a lot to update. And, of course, I always timestamp them so you know they're always changing and updating. And I put what I call the basic framework. I don't do all the science there. Looks like we're getting a call back from Jonathan, so I think he's available. Let's see, Jonathan, are you there? No. So let's bring on Pete Fettig, our expert on carrot bars, and I think that'd be worthwhile until we can track down Jonathan. We'll keep on working on it. He probably had something happen. Like, again, live radio is live, which means when people have emergencies or other problems. We are getting a call from Jonathan trying to call me, so something's going on. Yeah. So I think, John, you can probably go ahead and try to call the studio. Yeah, I think the studio should try to call. Yeah, try to call John. If you try to call Jonathan again, I think we may get him. But so far, no luck. Let's see. So he's trying to call me again. Yeah. So GCN will call. I'll just send. Very good. Okay. Hi, Jonathan. We got you.
Good to hear from you.
Yeah, it's great to hear from you. So, we always try to introduce what I call a biblical view that deals with the amazing, revelations that God's given you through your ministry, which is beforeus.com, of the ancient archaeology that explains the nature of our world. And what you're doing in many ways when you people get all your books, which is beforeus.com, like this latest one we're exploring, is you're changing people's paradigm. You're changing their perspective on the nature of who Jesus was, the nature of God, the nature of what we are, the nature of our universe. And when we have this capacity to change people's perspective, they no longer become victims of a false reality and lies out there. And again, remember, it says Satan is the author of lies, and because the public are ignorant, they're victims of whether it's false religion, false politics, false education, whether it's their health or their very nature of what they are as a being. So let's continue our discovery of Jesus. This book that we're exploring right now, you published several years ago. Tell us the title and how they can get it at beforeus.com.
Yes, it's called Stolen Identity, and the theme of the book actually is that there have been arising false Christ, false decoys which are taking away the true identity of the one and only deliverer of the whole world, Jesus Christ. And there's a fierce spiritual battle going on in which anything but him is acceptable. And the evidence shows that right through history, he was the theme of everything. And today, there's a big cover-up going on because we're reaching the final showdown between the two forces, the forces of evil and the forces of good. And it's important that we know the identity of the one who can save us and rescue us.
And by the way, the dark powers did have some foreknowledge, so they tried to have we call false Christs, even before Jesus appeared on the scene, to dissuade people to say, hey, well, they're Christ-like individuals like Buddha and Zoroaster, etc., before Jesus. But they have to look at his credentials, what I call his spiritual creds. And he also said because he was in the sense fulfillment of the Hebrew prophecies, he's the Omer, or the first fruits, which is why these Hebrew dates are so important. He also said, when I return, you shall be as I am. So he says, qualitatively, you, if you're my bride, you're believers, you've been bought in, and you're no longer a sinful being. You're now an eternal being where your mind or soul is fused with the being of the Most High God. You have become collectively the bride of God. And this is not like any other religion. People have to understand Christianity is not, like this false pope says, it's not another Abrahamic religion like Islam, which is a political system. It is not like ancient Judaism, which was seeking and looking for the Messiah, which is why they went off into Babylonian mystery religions and Satanism and all the other garbage with the Sephirot Zaira and all these other, Babylonian Talmud. What people should understand is that real Christianity is experiential and real. There's no such thing as blind faith, and you've proven that with your books. So I want you to explain the creds of Jesus in this book and why there's a lot of false, you can call it messiahs, and now, of course, currently there's a lot of false prophets out there confusing people about the nature of who Yeshua was and the fact that God's coming back to end the lease of the dark side.
Yes, Dr. Bill, you summed that up perfectly. I couldn't have done better. The truth is that Christianity is a relationship with a person, and this person has now arrived. He's revealed himself. He's working today just as he did in the past, and he's returning very soon to end man's evil rule of this planet.
Right. Yeah, in other words, it's I call religion real lies going on. But what Christianity really is in its core is a relationship with not only Yeshua, Jesus, but with the Most High God, which fuses our will and the will of the Most High, so it is not a religion. They call it a religion, but it's not. It's a relationship, which is unique. Everything else is asking to ascend toward godhood, like the Brahman yoking with Brahman in Buddha, in the Hindu ideas, or the mystery religions, or meditation. If you become into these various meditative arts, what Jesus taught was the condescension of God to create a new relationship with us, where we're no longer covered by sin, and we no longer are covered by lies, but we can clearly see who we are and who God is.
Yes, it's as Dr. Bill. It's almost as though we've fallen down to the bottom of a well. It doesn't matter what we try, we cannot get ourselves out. We need help from above, and he has reached right down to the lowest to bring us up. Exactly.
And so let's talk about your book, because you explore this, and unfortunately if pastors use this, they would have people, no longer burdened with trying to, quote, get saved. I tell people what you do is you show them the way by showing who the person of Jesus is, which is why he says, I am the way, the truth, and life. What he's saying is, if you understand the true nature of Jesus, you'll understand the way to become the bride, collectively, of God.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what an experience it is. There's nothing like it on earth. In fact, I was not alive until I came to him. I thought I was living, but boy, it was just a shadow of life.
Well, you weren't living what's called supernatural life. You're living now I'm sure when you get inspired to do these books and you take your travels or you interact with other ancient archaeologists that you've met, that you're living what are called day-to-day, in a sense, is a supernatural form of living.
That is right, and that's the quality life that so many people don't even know about, because it has to be experienced to be appreciated.
Right, so let's continue. So what are the creds of Jesus that show he's not a false Messiah?
All right, why don't we take the coded message of the sky maps today, because I don't know if we've ever dealt with this at all in the past, but I'd like to summarize that, because this is one of the insights that our Creator gave to mankind in the beginning to help him prepare and recognize the Messiah when he would come.
Right.
The ancient pictures...
I can hear the bumper music, so we might as well hold that thought, because we want to make sure it's a continuous stream of consciousness. When we come back with Jonathan Gray, again, beforeus.com, as I say, get the vision, get the solution, get right with the Creator, get power, and get your scepter. Back in a minute. And welcome back. And I want to make an interesting statement before you get started with the creds. The words that you're saying and we're saying on the show are inspired not by the words of man or by the intellect of man, but by a relationship with the Most High God, so that they are what I call spirit words, which means that they have the veracity and the power that transcends time and space. So 10,000 years from now, 100,000 years from now, the words that are said in this show today will be Scripture.
Well,
People need to know that.
It's wonderful to know that the experience with our Maker gives us information, gives us insights, and gives us wisdom beyond what we would normally have on our own. On our own, we're worth nothing, but with Him, everything.
So mankind, 10,000 years from now, no matter how advanced their technology, will revere these words that were spoken not through the spirit or the intellect of man, but the knowledge of the Most High passed to us, to them in our distant future, so that they will be a surviving culture in a galactic nation that's under the Most High God. They will apply the stars and the cosmos because they will serve the Creator and not destroy themselves or other worlds. And they will do this because they have a full understanding of the nature of what they are and the nature of the Creator God that made them.
Yep. Yes. It's exciting looking forward into the future. The best is yet to come, Dr. Bill. I like to say that.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world, it's the beginning of the end of darkness.
Yes. Well, now getting into our sky maps, of course, ancient man mapped the Earth in the past as well, and we have 14 ancient maps going back thousands of years, which of course belies the fact that when people say America was only discovered by Christopher Columbus and various other people in our day in the last 2 or 3 centuries have discovered the world, that's not so. The whole world was mapped for thousands of years in the past, and we have evidence of that in the copies of the old maps. Now, the sky was also mapped, and it's about this mapping that we're going to talk today. The map of the sky was very accurately drawn, and over that there were placed hieroglyphics, pictures of a story. Very interesting. Now, ancient pictures and star names for the maps on the sky were carefully chosen. And more than that, even, they were set more or less in sequence to tell a story. The same star story was scattered across the whole ancient world. Now, shown on the star maps were 48 pictures, and also the meanings of star names were incorporated into it to tell that same story. And what was the story? It was a prophecy. It was about a coming deliverer, and it was about an exciting battle that was going on behind the scenes that most people seem not to be aware of. A battle that had us all trapped, and we can't get out of the trap. Now, I guess so many of us have just assumed that star names were to tell people's fortunes through the stars, because today there are organisations and there are people who make a profession of fortune-telling by using the stars. But the truth is, the stars and the star maps had nothing to do with astrology. They were known long before astrology was ever thought of. And it turns out that the ancient civilizations, just to sum it up in a nutshell, believed that a serpent representing the devil had taken control of the earth. They believed that a virgin's baby would come from the heavens, would fight the serpent, defeat him, and bring life, peace and happiness back to mankind. And the hieroglyphic pictures on the star maps showed this. It was a prophecy that parents around the world were passing on to their children, generation after generation. Now, how about that? Star maps, thousands of years old, overlaid with pictures and names, mostly with Hebrew roots. The names on the star maps we have today still have those Hebrew roots, predicting a world deliverer. Now, carefully researching these star maps over a period of time, I was able to catalogue no less than 116 absolute parallelisms between these star messages on the old sky maps and the prophecies in the Hebrew scriptures, which similarly told of a coming deliverer. And both sources told the same story, the sky maps and the written book. From beginning to end, the prophecy of a Messiah who was going to come to rescue men and women of planet Earth. What a wonderful, interesting discovery. Now, people ask me sometimes, why do we need rescue? Rescue from what? Did the ancient people, our ancestors, have more to say about this? Well, According to the ancient sources, there is being played out. We're not talking about the Bible here, we're talking about the sky maps. There is being played out behind the events of history a deadly drama. And it's a colossal power play. The action's on this planet, but it involves the whole watching universe. And how it began is described, and how it will end is described. Now, this invisible drama of evil forces and good forces was originally known to all people. If we were to turn to the Bible, we'd see a record of it very well summed up in the book of Revelation. It says there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. The dragon fought and his angels and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan. Sometimes he's called Lucifer, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So this whole drama began, as far as our earth's concerned, with a real Star Wars rebellion.
Right, like a galactic and a interdimensional rebellion.
Yes, yes. And according to the knowledge passed down to our ancestors, the Creator's government had been challenged. His very character had been called into question. His reputation for truthfulness and for concern about his created beings was at stake. Now, being the Supreme One, he could have destroyed Lucifer right there and then if he wanted to, but he didn't. And why not? Okay, let's just think about this. Suppose he did. Those who were still loyal might well have concluded, well, look what God has done. Perhaps Lucifer was right. God must be a tyrant. Look what he's done. He's destroyed. He's got destruction in his hands. And that would be the first time they'd ever seen that. And some who did not understand might have remained loyal out of fear, thinking, hey, we better be careful. If you differ with God, he may kill you. And so nothing would have been settled. Lucifer's questions and charges would remain, and the problem would have been heightened. But according to what we've been told, and it is real, true knowledge, the Creator decided to fight the rebellion with love, not violence. Lucifer's character must be unmasked. He must be given time to prove that his charges were wrong, and God would be vindicated.
Exactly. So the basis of all good is what God preaches, which is oneness and love, and what all evil is unoneness.
Yes.
So he proved it with his very nature as to who he is.
Precisely.
Back in a moment with Jonathan Gray. What we're talking here on the break, and again, this fits in with this amazing book, which is, give the title again, Jonathan.
Stolen Identity.
Stolen Identity. So you go to Before Us.
Yeah, the beforeus.com, yeah.
So, and one of the things we talked about is the idea that God is oneness, which is why he had to prove his existence not with his power to destroy or create, but to literally create in the minds of man that literally God is, quote, love. In fact, that is, in a sense, circumscribes all of his power. By love and by the creative identity of God who transcends dimensions, everything has its substance and existence, including even Lucifer, which is why he's subservient to him. And the reason why he has power is because God had to use the metaphorical picture to say, shall you let your intellect rule over your spirit or your higher mind or your soul? Or shall you let the soul rule over your intellect? And what God is, and I'd like to use this analogy, God is eternity over intellect, and Satan is intellect denying eternity.
Very well put. Okay, continuing on from here, which that's a good start. The Creator decided to fight the rebellion with love. Now, these charges had created, you might liken it to an unknown deadly virus, where doubts were placed in the minds of created beings as to whether God was just and loving. And right. This mysterious virus of sin, or the spirit of evil, if you wish, had to be unmasked. It must be allowed to show its results. Its character had to be understood for the future security of everyone. So Lucifer, with his sympathizers, was banished, from heaven. And this event is not only recorded in the Bible, it's recorded on the star charts, it's recorded in the oral and the written history of many ancient nations all around the world. And this planet was hijacked. The rebels, now bitter, simmering for revenge, looked for a new homeland. They headed for our world, planet Earth, newly created, singing with life, and this was going to be the battlefield. And from here, Lucifer and his legion would fight back. And here, Lucifer would set up his kingdom and prove that his plan was better. So the main stage of the war shifts from heaven, it shifts down to earth. And this earth would become the theatre of a drawn-out, incessant contest between God himself and Lucifer, Satan. Now, we are informed that by inspiration that the first man and woman had been appointed custodians over this planet. And when they, just imagine it, they're a race of inferior creatures compared with Satan and his host. They were promised dominion, something that he had just lost, and his anger was blown up to tenfold rage. Now, with envy and a burning sense of unjustly injured pride, he now had a new object for his hatred. His only miserable consolation now was to wreak vengeance upon these new subjects of the Creator. And this was going to become a long test of strength and power. And we have the story of the woman wandering among the trees, and she sees this beautiful snake in the tree eating fruit, and suddenly it speaks, or appears to speak. Now, whether the wily Lucifer made the serpent appear to speak, such as a ventriloquist might, with his doll, or whether it became a possessed medium, as in a seance, or whether as a spirit being Lucifer actually materialized in the form of a serpent, which he can do, is not the crucial fact. But she was captivated. And then the serpent speaking raised doubts concerning their maker, just like Lucifer had done in heaven. And then he offered something better, just like he had done before he was cast out. And although warned, our first parents fell for this very shrewd ploy. Go it alone, he said. Be independent. You don't need God. And even today, liberation sounds nice to a lot of people. Yeah. So Lucifer deceived them. He led them to rebel against their Creator. And then, having overcome them as custodians, he took over the planet. Now that our first parents were separated from the life giver, the one who created them, who gives them life, the natural consequence would be death. And from that day, the process of dying commenced within their bodies, cell by cell, and this process would be passed on to all their children. Now, when I learned about this, discovered it in the inspired word, a question came into my mind. If the Creator is all-powerful, then why didn't he stop this happening? Why didn't he make us so that we couldn't do wrong? Well, he certainly could have, if we were to be mere machines, but because he wanted us to enjoy optimal happiness. Optimal happiness is only possible if we're free to choose. He allowed us to be free. Free to want him, or free to spit in his face. So anyway, it appeared that Lucifer had won the first round, and now man was in his grasp, alienated from his Creator. Now, people often don't believe that there are such unseen evil entities behind the scenes, but you can count on it. I remember hearing of a British Prime Minister of earlier days acknowledging that we are in the presence of forces far larger than we can wield. It's as if in the atmosphere of this world there was some mischievous influence at work which troubles and excites every part of it. Well, history records, and will keep on recording strange and unimaginable deeds which are nothing more than the visible results of these invisible evil powers. And could it be now that what has been revealed to us in the Bible and on the star maps gives us the true key to understanding history? We've got a parallel universe. We've got entities that can slip in and become physical, can be seen, or they can become invisible, unseen. And they have that ability. And what's being stamped on world history is their influence over the leaders of this world at the present time, and in all the misery that takes place in the world around us, and even upon us. We can't blame God for this. This is the result of the hijacker and his mob, who are trying to discredit our Creator.
Exactly. Now, the important thing that we're showing here is that God had a plan to lay out to show his kindness and his love and his mercy, but also his judgment, because judgment, although it says in the Bible, God is not fast to judgment, but he's slow to judgment to demonstrate his character. And he had to actually make sure that the bride, which is us, was a willing bride, not one that's forced like a concubine. He didn't want to have a concubine people that were fearful of him because he's not only the creator but destroyer, but a willing people, beings, that would have his children. Therefore, we are collectively the bride of God. And what people should understand, what Jesus is trying to teach, is that God took away our sin. He made us, washed us clean. Just like I like the book of Hosea, that it says, go out and find a whore, and then sanctify that whore. Remember, it talks about it in the book of Hosea? That's what he's done with his people. He's sanctified us so that we are no longer covered with whoredoms. Whoredoms meaning we have followed false religion, which is everything else other than the relationship with God. Followed false intellectualism, which is what Satanism is. Basically, Satanism is intellect over eternity, basically denying eternity and saying, hey, I know I'm smart enough, I don't need God. I can genetically engineer life extension. I can genetically, make myself genetically and cybernetically rich, like Ray Kurzweil, so I can download myself into computers or create clones of myself and download my consciousness into the next individual. And there's a lot of these movies coming out now that are saying, almost like the Satanic Lie that was said in the garden, surely you shall not die, for you shall know both good and evil.
Yeah.
And it's exactly the same lie. It's not a different lie, it's the same lie. Amazing, isn't it?
It's perpetrated constantly, yes.
Yeah, it's the same lie. Through all the centuries, there is no change in the lie of Satan. It's the same lie.
Yeah, because he knows it works on the hearts of people.
On the hearts of people that, want to be self-willed and ignorant. Welcome back, and so beforeus.com. So if you want to learn the real identity, is to say this show is here to be a blessing to you, to bless your bodies with the physical solutions, to bring balm to your eyes, to let your eyes see not just physically but spiritually, to let your spirit soar, to realize the times of darkness which you have, which are financial, geopolitical, environmental, are just about over. This is the beginning of the end of dark history for mankind. This is the beginning of the end of a time which has been crushing mankind for millennia. This is the beginning of the end of the times of troubles, which are going to come in spasms. But again, remember, our God is God, and he's not nervous, and he's still on the throne. And your book, basically, I consider an apostolic ministry to kind of teach people that don't be fearful, because fear only comes from the dark side, that no matter all the horrors that are coming, even our own death and even our own suffering, is only for a time. That God, I like my favorite book of the Bible comes from the book of Job, and it says, though even I die, and my Creator, in my own flesh will I stand before my Creator. In other words, he's not just talking about being a spirit in front of God. He says, in my own flesh yet will I stand before my Creator. I think people should start to grasp that their knowledge of what the nature of reality is and the nature of their Creator is completely wrong. And if people don't have what I call a living faith, they don't understand that God does not give you, there's no such thing as blind faith, in other words. What you teach in your books is blind faith is taught by blind leaders.
Yeah.
Real faith is like getting a text message of, the delivery guy will be at your door in 2 minutes. That's what God is like.
That's right.
And walking a supernatural life it's not going to be easy. And you may go through horrors and health problems and financial and other things, but God's always with you. And he'll confirm that over and over again so many times. And I tell people, I said, it's not whether or not you win or lose the game. It's whether you walk with God while you're doing the game.
That's the bottom line.
Right.
Yes. Okay, just to catch up on this huge battle that's going on, there is a real ongoing conflict. It's historically established beyond all possibility of reasonable doubt.
Right.
It's a contest for the sovereignty of Earth in particular and of each individual. And the ancient nations knew it. They were all aware of it. Now, when we see the fiendish cruelties that have been perpetrated on innocent people, is that just done by human beings, or is there a evil powers behind the scenes which are diabolically higher than we can imagine, and they are actually intensifying the drama? This is not just a man-made drama. This is a drama of evil forces behind the scenes which are greater than we can imagine. But
right.
the forces of good, the forces of the Creator are stronger and more powerful still, and they're showing their evidence in our world today like they have in the past. You can count on it. Now, looking at the past again, stories from the ancient past are cross-corroborative, Dr. Bill. Our racial memory of someone called Satan or the devil is very much the same around the globe. It's been recognized in just about every culture in history, and because the medium through which he spoke was a snake, the serpent or the snake or the dragon came thereafter to be regarded as his symbol. Now, this painful experience encountered by our first parents became etched in our racial traditions. Whether you go to Sumeria or the Americans, China, Egypt, Babylonia, all art and literature recorded the fall of mankind, the entrapment by the evil serpent, the invasion into the human existence.
Yeah.
Now, I often am asked, why doesn't God stop it? Well, there's one thing we can agree on. Our world has become a great mess.
Right.
And if there's a creator who cares about his subjects, why doesn't he stamp out the wrong and stop all this suffering? If he created DNA, then couldn't he stop the suffering? Okay, yes. But listen to this. Anyone who's doubting the wisdom and the justice and the power and the love of God, remember this. If he were to stamp out evil now, he'd do a complete job. Suppose God were to decree that at midnight tonight all wrong would be removed from the universe. Who of us would still be here after midnight? Question worth thinking about, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. In other words, it's good that he's gotten it, we're not.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
But has he given a response? Yes, he has. And it's the most dramatic and costly and effective degree, to the greatest degree possible. And he communicated it to our very first parents. Not only a communication, but a promise of rescue. He gave them hope. Okay? There was a prophecy given right there in the beginning, and it's in the Bible. It's in Genesis chapter 3:15, where he spoke to Satan in the presence of our first parents, and he said, I'm going to bruise your heel eventually. There's going to be the woman's seed, in other words, not the man's seed, the woman's seed, born of a virgin. He's going to bruise your head. You will bruise his heel. Now, you get your heel bruised, you're put out of action temporarily, but you're not finished. Once you get your head bruised, that's the end of you. So, in other words, there's going to be a battle. He's coming down. He's going to be born of a virgin. He's going to fight you on your own territory. He's going to be wounded in the process, but he's going to end up bruising your head. Now, that is the whole nut of the story, where evil is very soon going to be finished. And this was recorded on the star maps. And so we have ancient star pictures sketched out to record this prophecy. And you've got a man on the star charts, Ophiuchus, fighting with the serpent for the crown, the rulership of this earth, and he's being stung in the foot.
Yeah.
His foot is being bruised.
And of course, Ophiuchus is between Scorpio and Libra.
That's right.
And it's the 13th in the star map, and it's also the plane of the galaxy where the emerging dwarf star will return to Earth at some future point. It's not there yet, and I have classified information that goes aside and in addition to information from Professor McCanney. I took care of the South Pole Telescope team from America to McMurdo Bay in Antarctica, and have other classified sources. So people should know these ancient star maps were known by Moses, who was actually trained to become the next pharaoh. His name Moses meant he was trained by his physical and intellectual capacity to become the next pharaoh because he was adopted by the daughter of the pharaoh.
That's right.
And what people need to start understanding is that God foreknew this before the foundation of the universe because he wanted to draw out, or Moses meant out of adoption, he created Moses to have this knowledge from these high priests, so he'd know it's time for them to go from the deserts of Midian to take my people out of Egypt. And it's now time to say to the people of earth, let my people go. Just like my ancestor Moses was of a blood descendant. Let my people go from her, O planet Earth, O evil systems, O political systems that rejoices at gay marriage and rejoices at violence and war and economic chaos and destruction and starvation in Greece and elsewhere. Let my people go from a geopolitical system that preaches false religion and churches like the Roman Catholic Church that preaches that Satan is the father of our Lord Jesus. Literally in the Vatican last year I saw a video clip, and I read Latin. Yeah. What people need to understand here is that high-level masonry is all bisexual pedophilia. It's all evil because it's based on worship of the higher-level demonic horde under Satan. And people say, oh, no, it's not. That's just a conjecture. No, you don't understand. What I'm saying here is not my opinion. It's the thus saith the Lord. We're at the time now where we can start apprehending the nature of what we are. We no longer have to believe in false religion. We don't have to believe in blind faith. We don't have to believe in blind politics. And to get these books, you'll open up your eyes, you'll start understanding that the star maps were laid out there to tell us that God is coming to rescue us from a horrible system that's been crushing us for millennia. And it's almost over.
Thank God for that.
It's almost over. BeforeUs.com, and Jonathan's back twice a month, usually this time slot. 2 weeks from now, we will have another great show. And that'll be on August the 5th. Back tomorrow in hour number 1. Pete Fedek from Carrot Bars is here. Tim Alexander and Chris Harris are nuclear expert. And of course, I'm on as a guest on Rents Network on hour number 2, Thursday nights. Firing line on Friday. Our scientists, Professor McCanney and Ann Morrison, we provide you, as I say, we are feeding the sheep the truth for the Most High. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
You are an individual with